Hello, and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach. The past few weeks I've kind of been, talking a lot about the NFL with NFL free agency starting a couple weeks ago. But this video I'm going to be kind of changing directions here because we are less than 1 week away from the beginning of spring football. The UFL, for those of you who don't know, the United Football League, is kicking off this Saturday, March 30th. The first game is set the Saturday, March 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it is between the Birmingham Stallions and the Arlington Renegades. So, if anybody doesn't know, the UFL is the league that came from the XFL and USFL merging. So their first game is going to be the defending USFL champion Birmingham Stallions and the defending XFL champions Arlington Renegades. As I said, the Stallions are defending USFL champions. They're actually two-time defending champions. So in the 2 years, the 2022 and 2023 seasons of the USFL, the Birmingham Stallions won the championship in both those years. So kind of what I'm going to do in this video is run through the games, give some notable players, and then give my game predictions. So start off some notable players for the Stallions. Start off with their QBs. So as of the time of this recording, not sure who their starting quarterback is going to be. I haven't seen any news on that. So I'm just going to run down their three candidates for starting quarterback. So the three candidates are Jamar Smith, Matt Corral, and Adrian Martinez. Jamar Smith has been their backup there for the past 2 seasons. He's a guy that seems like kind of been waiting his time. He seems like a good quarterback, and if given a chance, could probably do some good things for this team. It's a very good team, and Jamar Smith could probably just keep that ship going, keep that momentum going, and keep them trying to get a third championship in a row. Also in that QB room, you talk about Matt Corral. Matt Corral had a very good college career. He did very good at Ole Miss. Fortunately, his last game at Ole Miss, his bowl game, his senior year, he suffered an injury, which kind of caused his draft stock to go down a little bit going into the 2022 NFL Draft. He wound up going in the 3rd round to the Carolina Panthers, and then his rookie year was derailed by injury, and he was released at the end of the preseason of this past season of 2023. He's a very talented quarterback, and he's a guy that I would really like to see get a shot to be a starting quarterback and kind of show what he can do. Maybe he can show a little bit of what made him a very special college quarterback. And then the third quarterback competing for the starting job is Adrian Martinez, who's he didn't have the best college careers between his time at Nebraska and Kansas State, but he's a very athletic quarterback, and looks like he has a very good ability to make plays with his legs. Where he lacks behind Matt Corral and Jamar Smith is just his actual arm talent, or what we've seen of his arm talent. He looks like he's more looks to be a run first athletic type quarterback. But he's a guy that can make plays, and given time to develop, could turn into a very good quarterback. So I'm very excited to see who actually is named the starter for this team. I'm very excited for the Stallions this upcoming season. Moving on, they've got a couple of former NFL players on their team. Start off first, recently signed Taco Charlton, who was a 2017 first-round pick. Defensive end Taco Charlton, who's a 2017 first-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys. He's got 5 years of NFL experience. So he's a guy that has played at the NFL level. He was a first-round draft pick. He's a very talented player. Unfortunately, things didn't really work out for him in the NFL. Looking to get another shot in the UFL. And that we've got wide receiver Amari Rodgers, who was a 2021 third round pick in the NFL by the Green Bay Packers. He's got 3 seasons of NFL experience, and a guy who's a very good wide receiver. So his time in the Packers didn't work out very well because he kept trying to make him a kick returner or a punt returner, and he just wasn't very good at returning punts. But he's a very talented wide receiver, and I'm very excited to see what he can do in the USFL or the UFL. Other than that, moving on, you've got defensive back Kenny Robinson, who was a 2020 fifth round pick in the NFL by the Carolina Panthers. He spent 3 seasons in the NFL. He also played in the 2020 XFL season before that got shut down by COVID. He's kind of a unique story. He played a couple years at West Virginia and got suspended from the team. And rather than sit out and kind of waste a year of football and not being able to play before he was able to go to the NFL, he played in the XFL. And then after the XFL shut down in 2020 due to COVID is when he got drafted. Once he had met the requirements for being out of high school 3 years before you can enter the NFL draft. Last guy for the Stallions I want to talk about is linebacker Scooby Wright. Scooby Wright is a player that had a very good college career at Arizona State. Kind of bounced around some NFL teams, bounced around the Cardinals, the Browns, the Patriots. Never really sticking on a roster. He's also played in the All-American Football League back in 2019. Played in the XFL in 2020, and then he's been in the USFL the past 2 seasons. Been in the USFL on the Stallions the past 2 seasons. He's a very good linebacker, and he has found a place for himself in the USFL. Moving on to the Arlington Renegades, as I said, the defending XFL champions. So some of their notable players. First off is quarterback Luis Perez. Luis Perez is Mr. Spring League football. He's played in the All-American Football League. He's played in the XFL in 2020. Played in the USFL in 2022. Obviously, he played in the XFL last year. Led the Dallas Renegades to the XFL championship, and he's a very good quarterback. He's a very unique story. He's a guy that taught himself to play quarterback through YouTube and wound up going to college and using what he'd learned from YouTube to play quarterback and making a college team, and wound up being a starter, and is now been in a bunch of spring leagues and is the quarterback of the defending XFL champions. It was a very unique career up to this point. And a couple of former NFL players. First off, most notably is defensive end Vic Beasley, who was a 2015 first-round pick in the NFL by the Falcons. He has 6 seasons of NFL experience, and he spent the 2023 season in the XFL on the Vegas Vipers, who disbanded when the 2 leagues merged. He still seems like a very, very good player. That things just didn't work out in the NFL, and he is again one of those players that has just found a spot in one of these spring leagues and still looks very good. Next is punter Marquette King. We were talking about a punter, but his NFL experience is with the Raiders and the Broncos. He also played in the XFL in 2020 and 2023. So the reason I talk about him is the reason I want to talk about Marquette King is because he is probably one of the more known punters if you follow football over the past 2016, 2017. time frame. He's a very athletic punter. I believe he played wide receiver before transitioning to punter in college. He's still very fast. He's got a very big personality, um, and he's a very, very good punter. He's just a guy that he's notable to me because he's a guy that kind of sticks out as a punter, and he's very good at what he does. And he's very athletic. If you need him to do like fakes or anything, he can do it pretty easily. And the last guy I want to talk about is linebacker Donald Payne. He was on the Arlington Renegades last season in the XFL. Before that, he was in the USFL, in which he was on the 2022 All USFL team and led the USFL in tackles. So it's a very good linebacker. Moving on to my pick for this game, I gotta pick the Birmingham Stallions. Just on paper, looking at the rosters, Birmingham seems like a better team to me. They're a team that was very dominant in the USFL. I remember the Renegades, barely snuck into the playoffs last year for the XFL, and then just went on a run to win the XFL championship. The Birmingham Stallions and their 2 championships didn't really seem to struggle. So I'm gonna go with the Birmingham Stallions to get the win. Moving on, the next game, which is on Saturday, March 30th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, is the St. Louis Battlehawks versus the Michigan Panthers. Last season in the XFL, the Battlehawks went 10-3. Unfortunately, they missed the playoffs because they finished 3rd in their division, and only the top 2 teams could make the playoffs. Some notable players for them: there's quarterback A.J. McCarron. A.J. McCarron was with Alabama, won a national championship there. Was drafted into the NFL by the Cincinnati Bengals. Kind of bounced around the NFL a little bit. Played for the Bengals, the Raiders, most notably, mostly as a backup, nothing really as a starter. And last season, he chose to go to the XFL. Kind of gave up a shot being in the NFL, being a backup, to go to the XFL, play for the Battlehawks, and be a starter, because he wanted his sons to see him play football, see him play meaningful football, and he is still very good. And he decided to come back to the Battlehawks this season after spending some time on the Bengals as a backup, a practice squad player last fall. So still a very good quarterback, arguably a top 5 quarterback in the league, or top 4, top half of the league quarterback. There's only a handful of guys I can think of that are better than him. So, very good quarterback, and I think do a good job leading this team. Moving on, a couple of notable wide receivers. First off is Hakeem Butler. He's notable because he's 6'5" and 225 pounds. So, he's a very good receiver for the Battlehawks. Last season in the XFL, very big red zone target, obviously, at 6'5". This guy that you can kind of throw it up to and he can go get it. He's had an issue hanging on to the ball, but if he can get his catching or his dropping issues under control, very, very good receiver. Another receiver they got is Ja'Cour Pearson, who was a member of the 2023 All XFL team and led the XFL in receptions and receiving yards in the 2023 season. So again, very, very good receiver. And the last receiver I want to talk about is Darius Shepard. Not so much for what he does as a receiver, but more so what he does as a special teams player, as a return guy. He was the 2023 XFL Special Teams Player of the Year. Kind of hope to see that continue. Maybe see that continue in the UFL as being a very good return guy and very good kind of special teams ace. Moving on, we're going to talk about the Michigan Panthers. The Michigan Panthers last year in the USFL went 4-6, but they did make the playoffs because they were second in their division and managed to get into the playoffs that way. Some notable players. Quarterback E.J. Perry. He was on the team last year. He's the player that is projected to be the starting quarterback as of now. He was on the team last year for the Michigan Panthers, and he looked good in limited playing time that he had. The Panthers went through, I want to say, 4 different starting quarterbacks last year. So kind of, had a lot of injury issues. E.J. Perry, when given a shot, looked pretty good. Next up is running back Wes Hills, who was not on the Panthers last year. He was on the New Orleans Breakers in the USFL, but that team disbanded when the leagues merged and found his way on to the Panthers roster. But he was a member of the 2023 USFL team and actually led the USFL in rushing in 2023. Very good running back. Next player I want to talk about, wide receiver Trey Quinn. Was a 7th round pick in the NFL in 2018. Had 3 seasons of NFL experience, and he was a player that played in the USFL in 2023 with the Michigan Panthers. He actually had 439 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns in 10 games last year. So pretty good receiver for the Michigan Panthers. Next thing I want to talk about is defensive back Kai Nakua. If his last name sounds familiar, he is the older brother of Rams wide receiver Puka Nakua. Kai does have some NFL experience. He was primarily a special teams player during his time in the NFL, but he did start 3 games for the Cleveland Browns back in 2017. So he is a very good defensive back. He was on the Michigan Panthers in the 2023 season of the USFL. So very good player, and looks to shore up their defensive backfield. And last guy I want to talk about for them is linebacker Frank Ginda. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. I put him on notable players list and I can't pronounce his name correctly. He was on the 2023 All USFL team. He's a very good linebacker for the Michigan Panthers. Getting to my game pick, I'm going to go with the St. Louis Battlehawks. I think they are a more talented team. I think they have a more talented quarterback, and I think that could be the difference, and I'm going to pick the Battlehawks here. Moving on to the next game for Sunday, March 31st at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. You got the DC Defenders versus the San Antonio Brahmas. Last season, the Defenders in the XFL went 9-1 and then lost the XFL championship to the Arlington Renegades. Their notable players, quarterback Jordan Teamu. Last season in the XFL for the Defenders, he was the 2023 XFL Offensive Player of the Year. In 2022, he actually played in the USFL and led the USFL in passing yards when he was in that in 2022. In my opinion, he is probably the best quarterback in the UFL. He's got experience in the XFL in 2020. He was one of the front runners to be MVP before that season got shut down due to COVID. Offensive Player of the Year last year. 2022 led the USFL in passing. He's a very, very good quarterback. I think possibly the best in the league. Next up, a couple of former NFL players. Wide receiver Kiki Kuti, who was a 2018 4th-round pick in the NFL to the Houston Texans, and he has 5 seasons of NFL experience. Pretty good wide receiver, and trying to find a spot in spring league football, just get back into football. Defensive back DJ Swearinger was a 2013 NFL 2nd-round pick. He has 8 seasons of NFL experience. He was on the DC Defenders last season in the XFL. Actually wound up getting a defensive touchdown. So though he's a little bit older, he is still a very good defensive back. This player I want to mention real quick that is running back Abram Smith on the DC Defenders. He was the XFL's rushing leader last season. He's a very, very good running back. Unfortunately, he suffered an injury and is on IR right now. So, yeah, just, looks like he's not going to be able to play this season for the UFL, but yeah, player to watch out for when he's healthy, because he could be one of the best running backs when healthy. Just wanted to touch on that one real quick. Not really an impact for this week's game, but just somebody I wanted to talk about. Moving on to the San Antonio Brahmas. San Antonio went 3-7 last year in the XFL, and 3-7 did not make the playoffs. One notable thing for San Antonio, which I want to talk about, is start the season they brought in Wade Phillips as their head coach. It might sound familiar. He's got some experience in the NFL. Very good defensive coordinator. And he was a head coach for a bit. Very good defensive mind. And some notable players for San Antonio. Quarterback Quinton Dormandy. Quinton Dormandy started four games in the XFL in 2023, which he had 1,500 passing yards and 10 touchdowns. Seems to be a pretty good quarterback. You got wide receiver Cody Latimer. He's a 2014 NFL second round pick. He has 6 seasons of NFL experience. He actually caught Peyton Manning's last NFL pass, 2-point conversion in Super Bowl 50. And he played in the XFL in 2023 and was on the 2023 All-XFL team. So again, very good wide receiver. He's got NFL experience, and just another one of those guys that's found his way into a spring league and just continues to, play football and played very well. The last guy for San Antonio I want to talk about is kicker Donald De La Haye, also known as Destroying, the YouTuber. He's got a very interesting story. He is a player that he played college football at UCF, and while he was at UCF and playing football, he started making YouTube videos. Well, once he started making money off of YouTube, basically the NCAA told him that he had to either stop making YouTube videos or stop playing football. Well, he chose to stop playing college football and continue to make YouTube videos, but in his time as a YouTuber has continued to, work at his craft as a kicker. You can kind of follow his journey as a kicker on his YouTube channel. And he's a guy that bet on himself in a different field, chose to bet on himself as a YouTuber and put his football dreams on hold, but has worked his way back into playing football. From what he's shown on his YouTube channel, he's still a very good kicker. And, just personally, I'm kind of glad to see a guy that bet on himself finally make it back to what he really wanted to do, or what he had hopes of doing, and that's being a kicker at a professional level. Moving on to the game picks, I'm gonna go with the DC Defenders. I think that they are a more talented team, and definitely going to come down to that quarterback play. And there's not too many quarterbacks that I think are going to outplay Jordan Ta'amu. So the Defenders are my pick. Moving on to the final game, just Sunday, March 31st at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's the Memphis Showboats and the Houston Roughnecks. So Memphis last season went 5-5 in the USFL. Their notable players, start with their quarterbacks. So right now they have an open battle for starting quarterbacks. They haven't really they haven't announced who their week 1 starter is going to be. Their coach just said it's going to be an open competition. First quarterback is Case Cookis. He played in the USFL in 2022 and 2023. In 2 seasons, he has 3,840 passing yards and 30 touchdowns. So very, very good quarterback. And the other quarterback that could be the starter is Josh Love. He's started 6 games in the USFL between 2022 and 2023. He has 1,000 passing yards and 7 passing touchdowns. So a guy that has some talent, but I think Case Cookis is going to wind up being the starter. I think personally he's the better quarterback from what he has done already in the USFL. He's kind of, obviously he's been a consistent starter, has close to 4,000 yards in 2 seasons, has 30 touchdowns. So I think Case Cookis is the guy that's going to wind up getting the start and being the starter for that team. Next person I want to talk about is wide receiver Vinny Papale. If the last name Papale sounds familiar, he is the son of former NFL wide receiver Vince Papale, who is the subject of the movie Invincible. But Vinny Papale is more than just the son of Vince Papale. Like, yes, you hear the name Papale, you probably think of his dad in the movie Invincible, but he is a very good wide receiver in his own right and was on the 2023 All USFL team. So a very good receiver. Clearly one of the best in the USFL last season. Kind of made their all-star team essentially. The last guy for them the last player that I want to talk about for Memphis is tight end Wes Saxton. He's a guy that has played in both leagues. He played in the XFL in 2020 before it got shut down, and he has played in the USFL in 2022 and 2023. And he actually started 6 games in the USFL in 2023. Moving on to Houston. So Houston is kind of an interesting story. There were 2 Houston franchises. There was one in the USFL, the Houston Gamblers, and one in the XFL, the Houston Roughnecks. And when they merged, the Houston Gamblers of the XFL essentially kept the staff and like any players that were currently under contract with the Gamblers, but they took the Roughneck name. So for the record I'm going to give you, it is the USFL record because essentially the Gamblers, or essentially the current Roughnecks, is what was left behind of the staff and players of the Houston Gamblers. So they had a 5-5 record in 2023 for the USFL. Notable players for them. First, we're going to talk about their quarterback, Jarrett Gorentano. He's kind of relative unknown, really. He spent time on NFL practice squads the past couple of seasons, notably for the Cardinals and the Broncos. So he spent time on practice squads in 2022. In December of 2023, he signed with Houston. And so last week, he was named the starter for week 1. His players, go back and look at some of the his statistics and stuff from college. Seems to be a pretty good player, and I'm very interested to see what he will do on this Roughnecks team. Moving on, talk about linebacker Reuben Foster. Reuben Foster was a 2017 NFL first-round pick. He has 4 seasons of NFL experience. He's a very good linebacker. He played in the USFL last season in 2023, where he started 8 games and had 52 tackles. He's a very good linebacker. He's a very good, very athletic linebacker, very hard hitter. That I think could really be a difference maker for that defense. And the Roughnecks have have 4 players currently on the roster that were all USFL in 2023. They've got running back Mark Thompson, wide receiver Justice Hall, offensive lineman Avery Genesee, and safety Manny Bunch. So this is a team that has lots of talent on it. And because of that, my game pick, I'm going to pick the Houston Roughnecks. Even though they have a less experienced quarterback than the Showboats, Case Cookis or Josh Love, way more experienced than Garantano. But I think the overall talent on the Roughnecks team is going to be the big difference maker, and that is what is going to allow them to get the victory. So those are my week 1 previews and predictions for the new UFL. Let me know down in the comments who you think is going to win. If there's anybody that you think is a notable player or is going to be a notable player this season that I didn't talk about, forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.